Oh yeah, well, see how we had to like save money. We didn't send Ron to like the SEC meetings, and I'm sure he's not happy about it.
So I couldn't believe we weren't there. Ron wasn't there, nor Lopez, right?
Right.
Yeah, that surprised me. That's also another good sign, but maybe it's because we spent so damn much.
I think
I feel really bad about the Derby thing. I mean,
that was part of it.
I didn't want any part of that Derby thing, and then we had to go, and then it all fucking fell apart because the goddamn Pelicans.
Yeah.
It really sucked. Like, I didn't want to be there. Fucking miserable day. It was raining. Spent a ton of money. It sucked.
Well, no, Jennifer was just like, oh, I'm gauging like what Ron did the last time he went, and she's just like, he didn't, almost like he didn't get much out of it, like as much out of it as he should have. And she's like, well, then we're spending X amount of days, X amount of dollars for a beach vacation in Destin.
Oh, going
That's
to the...
kind of the way she phrased it.
I know. See, I don't like the way she says that stuff now, man. Gauging how much money, what you
Hey, man. Hey, you know what? You know, that sounds familiar.
You gotta go because you don't know. What if you went there and something incredible happened?
Right.
In this Fourth Estate thing, it's pretty cool. Like Mike.
Hey, yeah, I just sent you a guest list.
I'm a combination of Gordy and Asher. Yeah, I just said, you know what? I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna rip them all before, and then you'll hear them again later. You guys suck. Yeah.
No, in the Fourth Estate, they sent Mike Schmidt to, what's it called, Mar-a-Lago?
Mar-a-Lago, yeah, Mar-a-Lago.
Sent him down there last Christmas, this past Christmas, to try and get a story out like Trump spending Christmas down there because they picked Mike Schmidt because he's like a young, single Jewish guy and anything to do. So he goes down there and he texts some guy that's like a confidant of Trump's. And the guy goes, well, we're going to be eating lunch at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow. Why don't you just come by and see if maybe you can talk to him. I don't know, probably not, but
yeah.
Goes by, Trump like makes some offhand remark to him, and he made a remark back and laughed. He got like a 40-minute one-on-one with him. So you don't know. That's my point. He had to be there to get it. Oh, we gotta have a show?
Yeah, we gotta do that. Shut up. Shut up.
Oh, don't start, Krabby Claude.
God, Krabby Claude.
Duncan Holder on a Wednesday, May 30th. Crew back together again 2 days in a row. That's been a rarity lately. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Claude Verdin, Dave DeCorbier here in iHeart Radio Central. Plenty to talk about. If you want to get involved in the show, feel free to jump on in. 504-260-1280 is the number. Let me lay out the guest list. Lots of local guests, but lots of local things to talk about late May heading into the month of
June. We'll start around 10:45. Talk with our colleague Amos Morale. Lots of recruiting news going on right now, and as much hype as we gave one Joe Burrow, we better give some hype down the street to Ponchatoula. TJ Finley committing, a quarterback prospect, committing to LSU. Some other recruiting news. We'll talk with Amos about that. Top the 11 o'clock hour, we'll talk with Sean Fazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8. We'll talk Saints OTAs and some other tidbits maybe from last week's owners meeting. He was in Atlanta as I was there as well. We'll probably jump into that conversation. Saints OTA going on this week. They've got 3 OTA sessions next week, and then the following week they have a 3-day mini camp, which is, of course, mandatory, and we're expecting Mark Ingram to be there, but we'll talk with Sean Fazan about that. And then tomorrow's OTA, I will actually be attending, so I will not be in studio, and I will be actually covering the OTA, so we'll have all kinds of coverage going into that. So we'll talk with Sean Fazan on that about the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Then around 11:30, we will talk with Jacques Doucet, WAFB-TV, up in Baton Rouge. We'll get his thoughts on the LSU baseball run. Of course, they're heading up to Corvallis in the next day or so, at least. I would say maybe today. How early do you leave,
No, today's Wednesday. No, they're leaving today.
They leave today.
Yeah,
That's
they're
a
leaving
long
today
trip.
because it's a long trip.
Right.
With I was actually talking to some of my friends who are still in the business, who were traveling all over for the softball super regionals, and some who, like Kentucky and Alabama, who had to go to Eugene, Oregon, and Washington for their regionals. That was like a 6-hour flight. They had to stop in like Denver to refuel. So that's going to be one of those types of flights.
Oh, baby, yeah. You can't exactly find direct from Baton Rouge to Corvallis, Oregon.
Unfortunately for them, they're going to be taking a charter plane, so they won't have to worry about going through security and all that kind of stuff. All they got to do is get to the airport, get to the plane, and then take off.
Well, I had a buddy I ran into yesterday who he was way long ago. He was a wide receiver at UCLA back when J.J. Stokes was a stud wide receiver.
That's a name.
Yes, former first-round pick J.J. Stokes. But no, and he was telling me about how Eugene is wonderful, Corvallis not so much.
Yeah, Eugene is gorgeous.
He was not exactly lauding Corvallis.
Eugene is like you're in the middle of like an emerald forest. I mean, you got just the smell of just like flora and fauna. You got mountains. You got the fog that sometimes rolls in off the mountains.
Marijuana fog that might be rolling in?
No, this is before it was legal.
You talking about Eugene?
Yeah, Eugene. Yeah, this is before it was legal.
I covered the U.S. track and field trials in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, at Hayward Field?
Yes.
Historic
awesome,
Hayward Field.
Historic site. But the thing that struck me about Eugene is exactly what you'd expect. Kind of a hippie school.
Oh, yeah.
Call it a
Oh,
left
yeah.
Hippies!
Tons of bikes, tons of jogging paths. You know, it's obviously the home of Nike, all the Nike money out there. But some really interesting places around the campus. And the thing that I loved about it, I love track and field, and it is one of the homes of track and field in America. And they have like bars, you know, like we have sports pubs here for, say, go to watch a Saints game. They have track and field bars where they go watch track and field in Europe. Sort of like we have soccer here. It's amazing.
That is amazing. So they'll go and they'll be looking for, say, Usain Bolt's next race.
Yes.
It'll be ramped up for that.
And all the walls are covered
Wow.
in like track photos and track singlets, famous track athletes that have come in. Really cool place because that's where you know Coach Bowerman was that started Nike.
Yep.
Kind of the whole Nike running craze that was started. When did that start? In the 80s?
Had to have been the 80s.
Nike
Yeah,
started.
yeah. Nike started in the 80s. There's actually a really good book. Phil Knight's put out a book that my wife bought. It's really, really good. It kind of goes through the story of how he started Nike, but it really tied back into his track career at Oregon.
Yes.
And then obviously, you know, you're talking about Roger Bannister and really Oregon's heyday of being a place where you just basically like they're doing now, pumping out Olympians.
Prefontaine.
Yeah, Prefontaine, yeah.
Famous.
Don't they have a track meet after him, the Prefontaine?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The fact that I remember
And
that.
the Bowerman is now is an award that the Track and Field Association gives out every year to the top male and female track athletes in the country.
Yeah, it's like their Heisman.
Yeah, it's like their Heisman. It's a big award. They give it out at their yearly banquet. It's a huge thing. It's really cool.
I can certainly say I did not anticipate the opening of the show. We went a deep dive into track and field. Always
This is
take
why
a
you
little
turn
off
into
track.
Duncan Holder for these types of things.
No, at least it's relevant conversation as opposed to like
Also true.
someone screaming about dancing tax goob or potholes or
Cookout.
Copenhagen
Copenhagen
turns.
Copenhagen turns. We could be talking about Roseanne.
We don't really need to
Well,
talk
we
about
don't.
No,
Roseanne.
we don't. No, we exactly.
Claude,
that's what I'm
you'll
saying.
lose us another.
I'm not.
column
I'm just
leader.
saying. I mean, I was driving in. NPR was talking about it. I was just saying. That's all.
Whatever. They could keep it. Whatever. That was destined to blow up at some point. It was a ticking time
And
bomb.
boy, did it.
Well, I was wanting to talk about really the story that piqued my interest last night from The Ringer. And Jeff, I hope Jeff, you better read up, my friend.
I am.
The 76ers GM, it's Brian Colangelo. You probably recognize the last name. His dad is Jerry Colangelo, one of the brightest basketball minds on the planet. And The Ringer did a deep dive on some of his Twitter activity, apparently, allegedly. And there's a ton of evidence where you could basically remove allegedly, and since this isn't like court and criminals law and such, we could basically say, okay, yeah, this was Brian Colangelo. He had 5 burner accounts tweeting at reporters, tweeting at others who were critical at him, defending him. The burner accounts were defending him Then they were tweeting at other reporters saying they didn't have basically the stones to ask certain players about failing physicals and trades bombing out. And one of them actually had to do with the Pelicans, a failed deal for Jahlil Okafor involving Etuan Moore. And that, to me, kind of stood out. All right, this is how we can certainly spin it locally. Basically, you should ask such and such about an injury. You guys aren't doing your jobs.
He also tweeted out things about players like Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz.
Yes, disparaging remarks about them.
Remarks about his own guys.
Just awesome. Like, what planet are we on?
What was he? What was his motivation? I don't understand what the motivation is there. I understand to rip maybe a reporter or something for some negative coverage. I don't understand the other parts of the motivation.
Well, how long has he been the GM? Not that long.
No, he's been the GM since they fired Sam Hinkie. Because remember, trust the process until the process didn't work, and then they were like, we need to cut bait and start to figure this out.
Basically, Colangelo was had no problem dogging out through a bunch of fake Twitter accounts, well, real Twitter accounts, but burner accounts. Basically ripping on players and acquisitions that happened, before him?
Yeah, before him. So, also known as the Kevin Durant.
Not quote-unquote his guys.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, the story on the Ringer.
That's
so much so where as soon as I finished reading it, I went to Sean Payton's Twitter account and started looking for burner accounts. I mean, what? I just started doing it.
How would you do that? How would you find it? That's what I don't understand. How does the Ringer find this?
Well, someone tipped off the Ringer.
Yeah.
And basically saying this is such, and kind of gave them a roadmap of where to go. And it's as soon as the reporter from the Ringer reached out to the Sixers, Colangelo, through the Sixers, admitted that one of these fake accounts was his. But then, as soon as they reached out, the three other burner accounts that were under, say, investigation by the Ringer, they all switched to private minutes after they reached out.
Interesting.
And there's just connecting the dots, basically following like his son's college, and all these different, all these burner random accounts all followed the same group of people, and there's too much coincidence there for it not to be what it is.
What an idiot.
And so much so where Mark Cuban and Daryl Morey were tweeting back and forth about it last night on Twitter. About just saying, wow, I've got these, I need a double blue check mark to make sure it's my account. Morey was joking about it. That's hilarious. But seriously, it got me wondering, and it kind of just brought back an old memory, and that had nothing to do with Twitter, but basically when you were accused of receiving the tip pics from Greg Williams, and that came out in bounty scandal hearings from Joe Vitt, it just kind of reminded me of like these back channel things. And look, while we were covering the bounty scandal for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, we maybe were wondering, maybe someone might be jumping in the comment section a little, and we've had that happen, not in sports, but we've had that come out in the news side. A huge scandal.
U.S. district attorneys lost their jobs,
right?
And I guarantee you, it happens a lot more often than we think, and that's why I've always been against anonymous handles in anything. I don't understand why they allow it in anything. Social media.
Well, how are you going to regulate that? How are you going to regulate that on Twitter? Because I mean,
do it on Facebook. You have to sign up by who you are, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still have to put in a lot more. Well, you have to put in a lot more information.
Well, have you ever seen the show Catfish? You could have a fake Facebook account.
Yeah, that's true. Right. That's the point. Yeah,
I know, but it's hard.
Of course, you would bring up Catfish. You would be the one to do that.
Oh, he's such a sweet guy.
Yeah, he's so nice.
And he's got an 8-pack, and then he shows up and he's 700 pounds.
It's possible to do, though. I mean, the Chicago Tribune changed their policy a few years ago. You have to identify who you are. Now, maybe there's a way that you fake it. I don't know, but I know that their comments on the Chicago Tribune website have been elevated because people have to say who they are instead of this "Who Dat 94."
Well, Clyde, obviously you know social media.
yes, comes to me now. Yes,
you need a separate email account per Twitter account. So basically, Colangelo had to go make like 5 or 6 email accounts to sift through this.
Yeah, this isn't just
not
as
hard,
simple.
though.
No, I mean it's not
It's
hard.
not
but
hard, but
at the
it's
same
still-
time, it's a
Is it
thought
worth it?
process that you have to go through that.
Right.
You can't just say, "Oh man, let me start all these different accounts because it's going to be so easy." No, I've got to start a different email for each account. I've got to make sure that none of them tie into any of the main primary email accounts that I do have. Then I've got to go on Twitter, and then I've got to create a bunch of different handles that may or may not be handles already. And then the steps that like Twitter now is making you go through to like not only verify your account, but to make sure that you are not obviously spamming. I mean, if we're talking about Cambridge Analytica and all that kind of stuff,
I don't know what that is.
The British company that is being investigated for any kind of nefarious operations during the last presidential election.
Oh, that does ring a bell.
Yeah. Okay.
Just kidding. Moving on.
Moving on. It's one of those things where Twitter now has to take an active Twitter, Facebook, and all social media accounts. I mean, Instagram, same thing too, has to take further steps to be able to do that. But I guess the most interesting thing about it is that this is now another prime example of a high profile, and it shouldn't surprise us, but this is now another high profile sports person going and using a burner account to either defend themselves or to basically put out a narrative out there that they would like to, or they would rather have out there. Because specifically, if we're talking about Kevin Durant doing this,
I was about
Kevin
to say, the
Durant
story
having
got
to-
brought up in the Ringer about Kevin Durant, and it looked like it was third person, and he was trying to maybe use a burner account, and he used the wrong account.
Use the wrong account.
And had to just come out and admit, well, da-da-da-da.
I
And
was
then
like,
Durant
well,
did this?
Yes.
he totally did this. He admitted it too.
he
Yeah.
publicly had to come out and admit it.
and that's
I
always
didn't-
a funny
I
joke.
didn't realize it until I read the Ringer story. I was
really?
like, what is this? Look, I'm so zeroed in a lot of
That's fair.
times on
That's
the
fair.
NFL and the Saints that
That's
I
fair.
didn't pay attention
That's why I
to
call it
some-
the Kevin Durant, because like
Right.
Kevin Durant is the biggest high profile case of this, of like athletes completely telling us that they don't care, they don't read anything, and they are complete liars. Because
Well-
of course they do, and we talked about this too.
Well, we know that athletes
we know that that's
read
true
everything
because we
on
just talked
social
about that.
media. I mean,
but
we know that.
but now
Coaches do as well.
Yeah, but now we know that full on. It's getting to the point where guys are starting to get not necessarily thin skinned, but guys don't want to take it anymore. And if they're going to go to lengths to be able to make multiple burner accounts so that they can defend themselves, what's the point?
Or rip their players that aren't their guys.
I mean, that's just and Joel Embiid said in a quote last night on ESPN, he said that Colangelo talked to him and said that whatever was said was not him, and until there's some new evidence that's brought up, he has to believe him. But if it's true, then obviously it's really bad.
He doesn't have
It's
to.
like he doesn't have to. You don't have to, dude. He said this. Come on, man.
That's just like the old Junior Gillette girlfriend tirade on Twitter. Remember that when he got cut, and then even all the players in the locker room knew that it was Junior Gillette, and oh my gosh, that all spins back to Junior Gillette, and what a goof he is. I don't know how we spun it back to him twice.
Because we talked about him yesterday.
Darren Sproles' wife go off too?
She went off on Instagram, but she used her own name, and it was basically
About being traded?
she put the Compton curse on the Saints. That's what she used, the old Compton curse.
And then that quickly for me was going to bring in just the precarious position like some of these guys are put in. Because, I mean, we could easily, even though this is not similar, we can bring this back to Reuben Foster. I mean, everything that happened over the course of the last week with his girlfriend.
Well, that's different.
That's different.
That has
But-
nothing to do with social media and burner accounts.
It doesn't, but I'm just saying, like, the precarious positions that superstar athletes can be put in on various situations that either get out in the news or get out in the media like this, that kind of bring unwanted attention in ways that, you don't necessarily see coming. Because, I mean, I can guarantee you that Markelle Fultz, Joel Embiid, and the rest of those guys had no clue that this was going on, and now they've got to deal with it.
Of course, yeah, they're basically Clyde lateral damage.
Yeah, Clyde lateral damage.
As we would call it. All right,
First album.
Exactly, about the Clyde it goes. Let's take a break right here on the show. Don't forget, 10:45, we'll talk with Amos Morale about LSU's new quarterback commitment from Ponchatoula. TJ Finley, we'll get his thoughts on that and some other recruiting news. Top 11 o'clock hour, Sean Fazan, WVUE, Fox 8 News, Fox 8 Sports. We'll talk with him, some Saints, and some other tidbits. Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV up in Baton Rouge, will get his thoughts on the LSU Regional, including Northwestern State. Natchitoches, Baton Rouge, flying out to Corvallis.
About to get real Cajun, real country in Corvallis this weekend.
There you go. And get your phone calls. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder. Dude, yeah, that story is like, it's crazy.
Probably not, but I mean, I'm sure they'll be able to bring their own spices, so they'll be able to do it.
They gotta have like the Applebee's where it's like the Bourbon Street chicken.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. You get the Bourbon Street steak and shrimp. Yeah, you guys will love it. And by the way, we're gonna cook it longer.
I always thought of the Applebee's Bourbon Street like chicken or steak, and I was like, well, if it's real Bourbon Street, it's marinated in. No, it's marinated in like curb runoff and horse shit.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
Curb runoff?
Barf. That smell. Yeah, lots of broken dreams.
Lots of broken dreams.
All right, I'll break it like 30, 31.
Yeah, actually, let me kick out this entertainment.
All right.
So we're back in 30.
Okay, that's fine.
Actually, oh, Jesus. Hold, please. Okay, now we're back in 50 seconds.
All right.
That's what good.
I mean, yeah, I might break early or whatever, but yeah, I'll keep that in my head. Well, we kind of are. Clyde's dying.
Clyde's needs Heimlich maneuver.
Oh, wonderful. Wobble Wobble Wednesday here on Dunc and Holder. If you want to get involved in the conversation, 504-260-1280 is the number. Guys, we kind of glanced over it the last couple of days. One, we were not here on Monday for Memorial Day, and two, we took the conversation into a interesting and fun direction yesterday. But want to get you guys' thoughts on, outside of LSU baseball, just kind of the landscape of what happened say with UNO. They were razor thin close to actually getting in to the NCAA tournament, making really an unexpected run. Were they the 8th seed in the Southland?
Yes.
And made a run to the finals.
Yes.
So that was a positive note. Look, as far as and it's the reaction publicly from UNO's brass praising Blake Dean and having some confidence in him. And almost, though, conversely, you guys, I know we're talking about it on Friday, how Tulane might be on the verge of making a change. They made a change to their pitching coach saying, look, we're going to do a national search. And look, I know we've got a vocal caller. Vocal caller.
I don't think he's alone.
Callers. I think there's multiple.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who are frustrated with the direction of Tulane baseball, and I'm not guesstimating. Well, I am guesstimating, but I've been told by numerous folks that back-to-back losing seasons is the first time that happened within like 50 years.
Yeah.
Something
Mm-hmm.
that's not an exaggeration, and that you're going into regional play, you're used to, even though they've missed year in, year out, they've been sporadic, but you're not used to seeing Tulane on the outside looking in this often and not even really having a chance. We've seen them in the past where they've had big time arguments and I would say snubbed, but then they would get in, and look, the most memorable moment last time they got in was we played the home run call from Jake Rogers from our buddy Ty Graffinini against Ole Miss, but looks like Tulane's baseball program is really nowhere near that at this point, and they made a major move in getting rid of the pitching coach. They called it a resignation. We know it wasn't really a resignation. I mean, they needed to move on. But Jeff, look, you've had a chance to chat with Troy Danon plenty of times, and he has high expectations for this athletic program, and I think they know that they've got to get this baseball program back on the up and up, because this is A, typically a moneymaker for them, and B, it's one of their most historically successful programs in Uptown.
I'd say Travis Jewett's got one more year. I mean, he's got to turn it around next year. He got a reprieve this year, had to make a staff change, and that's usually a harbinger of things to come. If he doesn't turn it around next season, especially with a lot of the players coming back, they've got to get their pitching staff righted. There's more talent on that pitching staff than what we saw this year, and they've got to be competitive in a difficult conference. I mean, it's a very competitive conference, but Tulane has the resources and is in an ideal geographic location to compete, and they should be a regional participant every year. I think that's very reasonable expectations for the program. And when you miss the regionals like they have, you're losing fan interest. And it's very similar to what we saw with the Pelicans. I mean, the Pelicans had to do it this year, or it was a make-or-break season. I think it's the same thing for Travis Jewett next year, or he will be looking for a job.
And it's also not the fact that they have a winning record and, boy, they just last 5 in. They're not even 500. And you would think that look, the American is a power baseball conference. Look, East Carolina's a host. Any other American teams that are hosts? I know UConn was thought of being a host.
Yeah, UConn was close, but no, Houston's going to Coastal Carolina.
But they're typically
though,
power.
you at least get a couple in there for sure. But that was a story that I saw on a couple days ago after the bracket was released on Memorial Day. It was really talking about how the smaller schools and the smaller conferences are starting to become powers in Stetson. I mean, the Hatters. I mean, that's a new one too. This is gonna be a new one for a lot of people because I want you to pull up a map and find DeLand, Florida. Exactly. I mean, no one's really thinking about that unless you are in the Florida area. But Coastal Carolina, DeLand, Stetson, but schools like that are starting to become powers because of the fact that it's like we talk about all the time, and we're not being stands for Tulane people for Coach Jewett and whatnot, but baseball in the state, in the country, and especially in the South, it's starting to get more broad, it's starting to get more spread out, and the guys, it's one of those things where to get to where they want to be, it's almost having to work through it. And I'd love to hear Graf's take specifically on what he thinks recruiting in the American is like, as opposed to recruiting in some of the other conferences that Tulane's been in.
Well, I'm sure they're vying for similar players because it's a power conference, just like the SEC. It's the same thing. All right, let's take a break right here on this show. In about 12 minutes or so, we'll talk with our own Amos Morale about LSU's latest quarterback commitment from Ponchatoula. Also, some other recruiting tidbits. He's been kind of out and about at some of these camps. There was an LSU Tulane camp.
Yes, that was here in the
at
city.
The Saints facility. We'll get his thoughts on some of the prospects around here. At 11 o'clock, Sean Fazan. 11:30, Jacques Doucet. Do not go anywhere. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
I'm going to take this damn jacket off. You guys coordinate your...
No, we didn't. I mean, we just happened to,
I have a little sneaky cam in his closet.
Yeah,
in his house.
clearly.
I'm like, what's Clyde getting?
Yeah, and then he saw me walk out of my closet and then go to my laundry room to get this. And then
So did you didn't respond to my direct message?
Because I saw it, dude. Because, I saw it. I'm like, yeah.
You didn't respond?
Well, I figured you need a response to
I need
something
a
that I
response.
verbally told you yesterday that we're going to try to
I just wanted
do.
you to know.
Good Lord.
Golly.
I was like, man,
Right.
Like
looking
dealing with a
forward to it.
girlfriend.
You want the other
Yeah,
one?
it's in the door.
I got you.
Thank you, buddy.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
somewhere.
Mr. Nice.
Yeah.
Getting a run around to mill around this pig and sit down.
Oh, so you started reaching out? Okay.
Yeah, like, you send the thing and they go, it's classic Saints. Yeah, let me put it on his radar, and then you never hear back from them. Like it's like they just forget.
I never reached out, so I'm glad you did.
I did, but now he's saying he might not be able to sit down. He might just call you. Like, oh, just call me. What am I going to be? I'm just going to run around? I mean, you're giving him a big window. I just wanted to sit down with him before, he leaves for July.
Yeah.
No, but it's way more fun this way. Okay. Yeah. We'll go with that.
Get the unrivaled iPhone 10 now for just $20 a month. That's 50% off from Sprint. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com/iPhone, or call 1-800-SPRINT1 today.
Requires 18-month leases for well-qualified customers. Early termination results are remaining balanced.
30 seconds.
iPhone 18 balance. iPhone 10 64 gigabyte $20 a month after 2167 month credit. Terms and offer not applicable or subject to credit. $30 activation fee. Restrictions apply. Most money files are good to go. If you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.com. Brought to you by the National Guard.
Might try and get Prisco on this week. It's got a good story.
SEC meetings going on right now in Destin, Florida, and a report from 24/7 Sports on the Go 24/7 Sports. I guess that's the LSU site, right, Clyde?
Yes, that's correct.
So Ed Ogeron is out saying they don't have a starting quarterback right now. And how much do I believe this? Absolutely zero. Absolutely zero. I don't care what he's saying. Basically, just like last year when we really did not believe that Miles Brennan was actually in legitimate competition with Danny Etling for the starting quarterback job. And Ed Ogeron, I read another report basically saying that he's never guaranteed a spot for someone who's coming in as a transfer, always saying, oh, you've got to compete, yada, yada, yada. Give me a break. Come on. Why even say this? I understand
You know what
you
he's
got to
doing.
say it, but come
Yeah,
on.
That's what he's doing. He's trying to keep his other quarterbacks, stay true to them, and allow them a chance to compete. When we all know, look, Joe Burrow, when he decided to leave Ohio State, was only going to go somewhere where he could play. The reason he left Ohio State was because he lost playing time, got beat out. Those guys handpick where they're going to go, and they're told, whether it's Ed Ogeron or some assistant, basically telling him, you're going to start. There's no doubt. So unless he just completely, spits the bit during the fall, which I don't expect to happen, he'll be the starting quarterback. There's no doubt about it. He didn't go there to not start.
Here's a quote from Ogeron from Destin saying, we've had some great talks with all our quarterbacks. They didn't blink. I told them not to blink. Nothing has changed with them. They're going to compete to win the starting job. Right now, none have talked to me about transferring. I don't expect that to happen. They're going to embrace the competition. I think the competition will make them better. Do I believe all of that? No, I don't. I expect one of them to transfer. I don't expect all four quarterbacks to be just hanging out, chilling, waiting for a chance to start, and the best years of their college career go by. I don't buy that either. So maybe they haven't told him specifically, but I'm willing to put heavy amounts of hypothetical, theoretical dollars on one of them transferring. Again, I'm not buying this.
No question. That's what happens. Basically, college football is elite programs, at the highest level, the Power 5 level of college football. They have, 85 scholarships?
Yes.
Way too many scholarships. In my opinion, you could get away with 75. It would solve all the problems of Title IX. But the big programs do not want that. They want a training camp-like environment where they can oversign, bring in 4 quarterbacks, bring in 8 running backs, and figure out who the best players are. Guys like Tyrann Mathieu might not have ended up at LSU if you had to make that choice because he wasn't a huge recruit, but they got him into camp, they found out the guy could play. I remember a story a few years ago, Lee Jenkins, when he was at the New York Times, wrote about Southern Cal. Southern California at one time had 6 5-star running backs on their depth chart. and they basically get him in, figure out who's going to the cream rises to the crop. Those other guys transfer to Fresno State or wherever they can play.
Or switch positions or something like
and
that.
And the coaches don't want to take a risk that when they have to sign somebody, they have to make a choice. They don't want to take a risk that they pick the wrong guy, and the guy that rises to the top on their depth chart during training camp might end up at Fresno State because they chose not to give him a scholarship because they weren't sure. So they have the best of both worlds right now, 85 scholarships. So think about it. That's 4 deep at every position. If you consider 44 starters, 22 starters, you're basically 4 deep. I know you have specialists, but a lot of those guys don't get full scholars. You don't need 4 deep at every position. And you have a ton of walk-ons. Clyde, how many walk-ons does LSU have?
Oh, my God. Oh, man.
What, 30?
Like, I mean, probably 30, maybe even 40. I mean, you're talking about guys who are just squad players, guys who are walk-ons, who stay at the walk-on.
A bunch of Rudies.
Yeah, a lot of those guys. And I mean,
sometimes a guy will emerge.
Yeah, sometimes they will. But I mean, those are a lot of the stories where you find a lot of guys where those were some of the gyms were, because I mean we had guys who started out in baseball, then came over to football. Obviously, they're much older. We had a couple guys who were in the military. I know you guys probably remember a couple of those stories. Those guys are really some of the unsung heroes too, because no one ever talks about them. They never get any run. They're never really brought out because you have all the guys who are on scholarship who are playing. But yeah, they're anywhere from 35 to 40 guys who literally just go out there every day and are just squad team players and walk-ons, literally just to be used by the first team and second team guys.
Well, I'm sure Joe Burrow's going to be the same way. They're just going to have him out there just handing out water. No. Here's Ed Ogeron's quote. Of course, he was, according to the story, Ogeron put his foot down on the idea of promising the job to Burrow ahead of the decision to sign with LSU. Ogeron's quote, "You get the opportunity to start. We protect the team. We protected the team throughout the recruiting process with Joe. A lot of teams may have told him he would start. We told him he would have the opportunity to start. Obviously, he saw there's not an established quarterback, so he took the opportunity." Okay. Opportunity to start, where basically saying, yeah, here you go. You're the first team guy. Here's your chance. We're not going to change it. Give me a break.
Who did he pick LSU over? Who was it?
Cincinnati. And I guess North Carolina-ish. And obviously over Ohio State.
He would have started Cincinnati. There's no doubt. I think one of the Ohio State coaches is now the head coach of Cincinnati, right?
Right, yes, that's correct.
Helped recruit him. Mm-hmm. So you know that Cincinnati was telling him the opportunity they had there. And so LSU, to get him down there, had to make some kind of promise. There's no doubt. I mean, whether it was an assistant, somebody involved, they told him, basically, you come in and don't screw up, you'll be the starter, in no uncertain terms. And Ed Ogeron's doing the job as the head coach. That's what he's got to do. So, but you're right, Larry. He's going to start this year. There's no doubt in my mind. And Miles Brennan will have a decision to make if he wants to go.
He's not the only one. I mean, Miles Brennan, Lowell Narcisse. I mean, a lot of those guys. I mean, Justin McMillan. I mean, we haven't heard anything from Justin McMillan yet. And when we last time we talked,
something.
Yeah, he did. Yes, because we talked about that the last time Lopez was on the show.
Right.
Specifically about him tweeting about how he doesn't. He loves his game too much to be played around with. Hashtag long sleeve season, whatever that means. So yeah,
cold.
Yeah, I was about to say. Well, I mean, not at this point in time of the year. But yeah, so I mean, we're talking about 3 guys that are going to have to make a decision, and then that leads into what we'll talk about with Amos is specifically what do they do with the 2019 quarterback class, and now that you have a commit for 2020,
right? TJ Finley's committed for 2020. We're going to talk with Amos Morale in the next segment about him.
How do they go about trying to fill the rest of that class, knowing full well you may have some departures, you may not have some departures, and how you figure that whole thing out with these guys? Because I mean, if you have Burrow for 2 years, then that's 2 years you've got, and then you're pretty much just looking to try to find who's going to be the next heir apparent after that, because there's no way, unless both guys really love LSU that much. I don't think they do. Both Narcisse and Brennan will both still be on the roster by the end of the 2018 season. And speaking of the 2018 season, the Auburn game has been picked up by CBS for 2:30 kickoff. That, unfortunately, is the 3rd game of this year, as opposed to the 4th game 2 years ago for Les Miles when the team was 2-2, and then they fired him basically on the way back from Auburn.
I'm wondering if 2 quarterbacks bolt. That's a possibility. If Joe Burrow wins a starting job, he's a starter for 2 years. So what do you do if you're Miles Brennan? You sit and wait again and again? If
No,
you're Noah
absolutely not.
Narcisse or Justin McMillan, do you wait?
And some of the quotes
two
too,
might leave.
And some of the quotes too, from especially from like Miles Brennan's dad, has been like, you know, and Miles himself about, no, we're not worried about, you know, we're not worried about Joe Burrow, and you know, we're going to compete for the starting job too, and blah blah blah. It's just, it feels murky. It feels very murky, and it feels like a situation that is going to be extremely volatile until there's a resolution.
Well, the resolution's coming, and
coming.
It's going to be volatile regardless. I mean, Joe Burrow's
like
going to be
that,
the
though.
starter.
That's good.
It's coming. It's already here. The resolution has already arrived.
Will the
Or
resolution,
the process,
will the
or the
resolution
situation.
Will the resolution be televised?
I don't know, but the
Nice.
situation.
Thank you.
The situation's back on TV. Jeff's
Which is
favorite show,
unfortunate.
Jersey Shore family reunion. I'm sure you're all about that. You and Snooki partying it up, right?
Is this 2 days in a row?
Speaking
He's got
of, we need to talk about your boy, and we need to talk about this
My
new
boy?
season. Yeah, we need to talk about your boy Clay Harper.
Did he
No, but
ride
I
in
said
on a
no.
horse or something
no,
on the
he did.
Bachelorette?
No, but he said that but he did go on record to say and tell this girl, whoever, I can't remember, if he catches her or if he wins her heart, it'll be the biggest catch of his life.
Oh my gosh. On that note, you're cut. You lose a rose. Adios, Clay Harbor. Back to your Gretna subdivision, as Jeff would call it.
cheeseball.
Yeah.
But this is clearly not as bad as apparently one of the dudes on the show who literally said that when he goes to the bathroom, he creates a toilet paper teepee on the floor, goes on the floor, balls it up, and then throws it away.
I don't know what's going on here.
I'm telling
is
you,
going on?
I read this yesterday on the Deadspin review of the first episode of The Bachelor. It is atrocious.
Oh my. Exactly. As Clyde digs into some trail mix here, talking about toiletries and such. Amos Morale coming up next. Sports1280 NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
So you got your boy Clay Harbor. You got a dude from Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then you have another guy. I didn't realize the other dude dated Allie Raisman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they were an item.
him.
And apparently he says that he's a virgin on the show, or that he he's saving himself for the right person. Literally sounds like the dumbest fucking person in the history. You realize who you were with? Man.
Didn't what's the guy's name that failed out? The Notre Dame quarterback failed out with the Browns. He got a radio show now.
Not Brady Quinn.
Deshaun.
Yeah, Brady.
Oh yeah. Let's say Deshaun Kaiser's
Dude,
already
he's
on?
married. Yeah, he's married to
the
Alicia
other
Sacramone.
dude.
Oh my
God, she is
god.
Smoking hot.
Oh my god, dude. When she would come down for elementary gymnastics meets, it's like,
She's like one of the best looking chicks I've ever
oh
seen.
my god.
You married her, right?
Oh yeah, they're married. Yeah, she's technically Alicia Sacramone Quinn now. They got like 2 kids.
All right.
At the game in Wisconsin, we were on the elevator. I was going up, and we stopped on like the second level, and I was with a bunch of other dudes, and I didn't see who was out in front of me because I was on the side. But then I moved, and they were like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we're full. We'll just wait on the comeback." And I look, and I see a gaggle of like teenage girls, and then Allie Reisman, and I'm like, "No, open the fucking door! No, let her on the elevator! Why would you do this? I'm on an elevator with a bunch of dudes."
Tulane got a basketball got a transfer.
Mm.
Seton Hall transfer.
Mm. Oh yeah, I saw that. You got to sit out a year though.
Yeah.
LSU's got a quarterback commitment already for 2020. Ponchatoula's. I'm blanking on the name. Good radio.
TJ Finley.
TJ Finley. I said it 30 seconds ago.
Literally 30 seconds ago.
I blanked
What
on the
happens when
name.
you get old?
Yeah.
Start forgetting stuff.
I think so. Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, you would know.
I think you're right. All right. A guy in the know, thank goodness. Amos Morale, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Amos, TJ Finley, Ponchatoula, kind of give us the lowdown on the recruitment. Who do you choose LSU over, and just your thoughts on LSU landing Finley?
I thought it was interesting in your story, Amos, that Hank Tierney, now this is a guy that has been around football for a long time, he basically tailored their entire offense, switched their entire offensive system over to be conducive to his skill set. Talk a little bit about that, what Hank Tierney did. It speaks, I think, a lot to Finley's talent and skill set.
Amos Morale, join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Of course, NOLA.com, the Times Picayune covers recruiting. Jack of all trades, join us right here on the show. And what does this do for the 2019 class as far as possibly landing a quarterback? We know Joe Burrow's on board. We know he can play right away. We assume he's the starter for the next 2 years. And then you've got the quarterback situation with everyone else behind them. Do you think they go anywhere near the quarterback class coming up in 19?
I'm curious, Amos, going back to TJ Finley, where do you think he will end up ranking nationally? I mean, I know it's early in his recruitment, and he's got a lot of development to go, but will he be a national ranked prospect at quarterback?
Hey Amos, real quickly from me, obviously spring ball and really kind of off-season workouts wrapped up for a lot of teams. Back at beginning of the month, back in April. Just tell us a little bit about some of the some of the spring games you've seen. Some of these some of the teams who either just went inter squad or found other teams to go against. Is there anybody or any teams out there, any players that caught your eye, either in the spring circuit or at some of these 7-on-7 camps that have also been going on?
That's insane. Is he going to start as a freshman at Curtis?
Wow.
Amos, there's a player at Holy Cross I wanted to ask you about. I might be putting you on the spot here. Sorry if I am. But linebacker Tyler Grubbs, I think he's class of 2020. I've had some people in the Holy Cross community say that they think he's going to be the next great player out of Holy Cross. Do you know much about him and his recruitment? I'm sure. I guess it just getting started. He's in 2020.
Amos, real quick, what's kind of the protocol over the summer? I know you got 7-on-7 camps, but real quick, it seems like you've been busy this past week and these past couple of weeks. Amos Morale, busy covering it all, recruiting for NOLA.com, the Times Picayune. Amos, appreciate all the great insight as always, buddy. All right, hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Sean Bazan, top 11 o'clock hour. Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV, up in Baton Rouge, around 11:30. So come on back. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
You'll be shocked to know I left my phone in the car. Stunned. That stupid thing, man, on my dashboard is killing me. I blame it, not me. Trying to get Prisco on it. He wrote this thing, question for all 32 NFL teams. You know, it was good. It was really well done, and like I think the one with the Saints was talking about Ingram and Kamara.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought we'd get him. We hadn't had him on in a while.
Yeah.
Maybe get him on Friday or something.
Yeah. Shoot, Friday will be cruise control. So we'll have Brody on. I'll
Nice.
be OTA stuff all over the place.
Nice.
That'll be cruise control. According to the ringer.
Who's the ringer?
Did Jeff fart again? Maybe
Uh-huh.
open.
Ew.
Got my phone.
Oh, hey.
Yep. Knew where it was all along.
So Sam's asking me for like PDFs of the front pages for like the Super Bowl coverage.
Yeah.
And I feel like we like downplayed it. Like when they got it.
Yeah, they did downplay it because we'd already kind of broken it. You'd already had it.
Well, yeah.
But it still should have been bigger.
I guess I'll just send him what we got. I mean, because I feel like the days leading up, we gave it bigger play.
Right,
than
yeah.
we did like when they actually like.
Yeah, I don't even know who you do that to anymore.
I mean, I'm in Merlin and I've got PDFs of the front pages. I don't know if it like. I think he just wants a PDF.
Oh,
not
he's just a
necessarily-
PDF and
yeah.
send it to him. Yeah, let him.
But I'm just like, ugh.
Is Marianne still working until like?
No, I
I
think.
think she's gone.
Yeah, no.
I mean, like
I'm
some
pretty
people had
sure-
like a couple weeks.
No, I'm pretty sure
Everybody's
everybody,
cold.
everybody's last day was yesterday. Because I mean, Jim, obviously he came through the other side of the office yesterday. So this is also the same day they had an editorial meeting where they had wine and cookies and cheese and stuff like that on the lab. Just kind of like,
Well, that's why when I was
yeah.
in France, I stopped posting photos from France because I was like, I look like a big asshole. You know, people get laid off, and I'm over here on vacation.
I mean, that's not anything you had anything. To
I
do
know,
with
but
that.
still, I mean, you look like a jerk. It's uncouth.
But I did tell. I was like, it sucks because for all of them, Jim too was like, I don't know.
He's been reaching out to me about. So.
Cool.
Yes. Yes. Did you get my? You didn't respond either. None of you guys responded by direct message about Light Rock Express. Light Rock Express, you gotta come, man. June 9th.
It's like in the snotty portion of New Orleans.
No, it's not. It's a total dive bar.
It's where they fart and blast and sniff up.
That's what I do. You see the guys are all wearing leisure suits.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're in full like they.
I clicked on the link and then I looked at the map. I'm like,
Yeah, literally, I just need to know where this place was.
Alright,
Where this place was, because I'm going to dinner, anniversary dinner that night.
tomorrow night.
Nice.
I'm going
Yeah, they say, what are you going to do with your... Lord.
Get drunk every night.
Yeah. Good Lord. Oh my God, Cardi B. God.
Ah, wonderful. Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Wednesday, May 30th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, and Dave DeCourbier here at iHeartRadio Central. Missed any of hour number 1? You can check it out at sports1280.com on the podcast or on our NOLA.com YouTube page. And joining us right here to start up hour number 2, Sean Pazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8, joining us right here on the show. And Sean was with me a week ago around this time when New Orleans was awarded Super Bowl 2024, number 58, if you want to get it all technical. And Sean, before we kind of dive into some Saints tidbits, just your thoughts on New Orleans landing that and just the process. And a lot of people were kind of stunned at how kind of low-key it all of a sudden popped up into everyone's hemisphere as far as, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, look, that they're getting the Super Bowl, and the way that the Sports Foundation and the Saints and the NFL kind of worked under wraps to kind of get this thing done. That was my exact quote. That was my exact quote to Sean Fazan. Yeah. Basically, if they put up a presentation and just had 10 minutes of a dancing poop emoji, that's the only way they weren't going to get it. My exact quote.
Sounds like a Larry Holder quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It brings me back to when...
Blasting it up in Atlanta.
It brings me back to... this is bad because it brings me back to when I was on the air on Fox 8 pregame show for one of the Saints games. I forget which one. And my wife said, hey, look, Dad's on TV. And my son took a picture of me on TV and put it on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever and put a dancing poop emoji in front of my face instead of me. So that's
Wonderful.
why I brought it back there.
Wonderful.
That's why I brought it back there, Sean. So, that's... He's 6. Well, I'm sure with the help of my wife. But anyway, let's move on from there.
Let's move on.
Why? This is such a great conversation.
Yeah, smart sports talk for the smart fan. Is that our slogan? Dancing poop emojis
Serious
on my
sports
face.
talk.
Exactly. Whatever. Tomato, potato. But Sean, look, second week of OTAs coming up. I'm sure you guys at Fox 8 are going to be all over it. We'll be all over it as well tomorrow. Just your initial impression of what you saw last week, what maybe you're anticipating seeing coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Sean, what else will you be watching the next few days, this off season? Granted, it's always, like you said, you obviously have to be cautious to not overanalyze stuff at this time of year, but any maybe position groups or players in particular that are going to be catching your eye the next few days?
Sean Fazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. And Sean, I would agree with you. And you've already actually seen a couple of familiar faces already get the pink slip this past offseason at linebacker with Mike Maudie and Adam Bighill, two guys that were around either Big Hill practice squad and fluctuating up to 53-man roster, and Maudie being around for most of last year as well. So I'm with you at that position. I'm also curious to see, honestly, the health of Teron Armstead. And he is a high-priced left tackle, one of the most expensive left tackles in the NFL. and he's been banged up a lot. When he's healthy, he's great. I'm curious to see how much, he goes even through some of these OTAs and mini camps, and then how much he can stay on the field consistently.
Speaking of futures, Sean, what do you anticipate the future being for Mark Ingram? Do you think he re-signs with the Saints after this season, or do you think they will let him walk in free agency? Or I assume they're going to at least let him test the waters in free agency, but I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on that.
Sean Bazan, WVUE TV, Fox 8. Join us right here on the show. Of course, he'll be following all the Saints coverage of everything going on. You can do that at Fox 8, WVUE TV. Sean will be there every step of the way. And especially since it's steamy outside, look out for dancing poop emojis. Just a heads up. Clyde, why are you shaking your head? Yeah, Clyde, why are you shaking your head? What's the matter? Like, this is
a family show. You tell me I go off the rails.
My 6-year-old's part of my family and put dancing poop emoji on my face instead of putting me and Sean on TV. What's up with that?
Well, clearly he knows full well of what we're really dealing with when we get you on a daily basis.
Well, probably so. Thanks, Sean. See you, buddy. All right, that's Sean Fazan. Let's take a break right here on the show. Don't forget, around 11:30, we will head up to Baton Rouge, talk with Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV. He was texting me earlier this morning that all of the craziness with LSU baseball, the extension of the SEC tournament and how many days they played, he feels like he worked for like 2 weeks straight, and he's getting a little breather. Said he might need to read a book. Well, guess what? He's going to join Dunc and Holder here in a few minutes. And we got a couple segments. Got time for your phone calls if you do want to jump in. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here. Sports 1280. NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Let me shake your butt.
It just sounded like it.
Let me shake your butt.
You're a rapper. I'm a rapper, see. Ever tell you I was a rapper?
Breaking news, Jeff raps.
I love getting that look out at Kaleido.
Clyde lateral damage.
Debut album, new music.
Yeah.
My vigor is fading. It's starting to fade.
Your vigor.
Wow. Yeah. Need to get Brett on next week before he leaves for World Cup.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him for that.
Okay.
Do a little World Cup action. I can bring you the book.
That's worthy.
I'll bring you the
I'm
book.
good with it.
The World Cup Fever book.
Yeah, sure.
You can read through it, ask questions to Steve.
And I'm
We have another World Cup guy.
gonna beg Brett to bring me a
what?
scarf back.
A what?
Stephen Ray wrote a book on World Cup.
Stephen, right? What?
Look at his face.
Who's that?
I'll wait till Thursday to have him on when you're gone.
You can have him on all that last week of our shows because I'll probably, if I'm doing mini camp, I'm gonna be out Tuesday through Thursday. What a way to end the show! Come back for Friday and be like, peace. Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm looking at all these PDFs, like the front pages. It's like we gave a giant
Play Tuesday, Giant Play Wednesday, and then we like downplayed it Thursday, in Thursday's paper. We downplayed like my follow up on Friday. Guess people are super.
Yeah, because it was already done by then.
Yeah, I guess. No, the one they're gonna, because they want to frame it and put it in
Yeah,
their
they want
office.
to frame it.
The one that will probably be best for them is right city, right year, right time, and that's Wednesday's paper. After 2 defeats, New Orleans determined to present winning case to host Super Bowl 2024. That's just going to have to be the one they use, because we don't have like a giant. They win. Now they're probably gonna. They might put my story out on A1 for Friday's paper. Maybe they can use that one too. Yeah.
They're talking about it.
Uh-huh.
I'm reading it right now. It's unbelievable.
Dude,
That
it's-
guy, like,
it's
obviously
free.
is a tech guru, though.
Yeah.
He figured out how to follow him. Man, these scary tech people out there.
Scary tech people, man.
We need Clyde to dig in.
Clyde's
Dig in
one
on
of those
Peyton. Go find a Mickey Loomis.
Yeah, let me
burner
know about a
account.
Mickey Loomis burner account.
Maybe
Dell Dimps.
Maybe-
I guarantee you Dell
I
Dimps.
don't have,
Yeah,
we don't have to
Dell.
worry about Dell. Dell Dips' burner account is his wife's.
It's a good one, too. Clyde's had a couple good ones today.
biggest fan of Duncan Holder ever, Cheeky Black. Biggest fan.
I don't think we're ever going to top that in any kind of in anything else that we do with the show. We're not going to top that.
Either that or the sounder from Boogie Cousins. What's up, Will?
What's up, Will?
But that's not show specific. That was just something we found. See, that's cool, but that's not like Duncan Holder specific.
Right.
Now that's Jeff in his best impression of Cartman. That's Jeff right there.
I'm just saying, man. Sometimes you need to respect my authority. Actually, all times.
Authority.
All times. You want me to go on a rant on the...
No,
Oh,
please,
no.
no.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
so
What?
ESPN has recently come out with their latest projections for the 2018 NFL season, and
Clyde just found this, and it's actually a relevant
Yeah,
topic
right?
to get Jeff off of an angry old man
see,
rant.
I was prepared.
I
was
like
prepared
it.
for this. So
You don't even have a computer here.
I know,
today.
dude. I know. Well, my computer, because I had to get something put on it. It was going to take hours, and so
So
I'm
Clyde is
still
here with
doing
the
work.
phone.
Still doing work. Thank you,
All right.
Apple iPhone 7.
All right, so ESPN has
So-
their NFL projections.
Yes, so
Okay.
they have the
I'm
28.
curious. I haven't looked at this.
So they have their 2018 FPI rankings out. The Saints are currently 6th.
That's
about
fair.
right. That's about right.
fair.
That's fair. Top 5. The Patriots number 1. Eagles at number 2.
Patriots.
Yeah.
Why are they number one?
Tom Brady's not even in OTAs.
I
Neither
know,
is
right?
Gronk. It's
They-
over.
I was about to say, speaking of,
Danny Etling's the starting quarterback.
Hashtag Danny Etling is a good quarterback. Steelers are number 3. Rams are number 4. Vikings are number 5. So that's your FPI rankings. For the rest of the NFC South, the Falcons
How's
are at
the
number.
FBI rankings?
The
What's that?
FBI rankings.
It's like
are-
the RPI.
Yeah, it's like the RPI. Like taking
Whatever.
Yeah.
ESPN rankings.
Your average, ESPN rankings. The rest of the NFC South, you got the Falcons at number 8. You got the Panthers at number 9. And then to find the Bucks, you have to go all the way to number 22.
So you've got 3 NFC South teams in the top 10.
In the top 10.
Through between 6 and 10.
Yeah, between 6 and 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've got 8 NFC teams in the top 10.
I I buy that too. It's basically the same thing as last year when the NFC was stacked and loaded, and there's nothing in this offseason that has changed that.
It's
in
going to
my
be more
opinion.
stacked, more loaded.
I agree,
With the
because
return
I
of
would
Aaron Rodgers.
I would assume, say, I know the Cowboys have had a turbulent offseason. I assume they're better a little bit. I assume the Giants are better. I think Saquon Barkley's going to be a monster.
Yeah, they got Nate Solder.
And I think Washington could be better with Alex Smith, and I think Darius Geis is all that hubbub around the draft. I'm convinced he's going to be a great NFL running back. I'm convinced.
I think he will be.
Convinced.
They've got the Cowboys at 12, and then you got the Redskins at 21. And then to find the Giants, they have the Giants at 26.
Well, they got
mean, it's
some
still
problems.
early,
I
yeah.
just still think that Saquon Barkley, look, Beckham's got to play for a new deal. He's going to be amped up. Eli Manning's basically got to prove his valor. I think that they'll be better, and they're playing a last place schedule. It's not that matters, because look at last year. 3 third-place teams and a 4th-place team from 2016 all won divisions.
That's a team that could get better really quickly. They're the classic kind of NFL team that has a few bad years and everybody swears them off, writes them off,
And then they make a run.
and then they make a run. They're in the playoffs because they have a quarterback, and that's one of the key positions you have to have. And they, I think, addressed their offensive line. They drafted an offensive lineman.
They also signed Nate Solder,
Right, their left
so they
tackle.
actually have a tackle instead of Eric
You're right.
Flowers being a turnstile.
And we saw what happened in New Orleans when they had an aging quarterback. Kind of went to more balance in the running game. I think the Giants will especially do that with Barkley, and he may be one of the best young running backs. Some scouts say the best in a decade to come into the league. That's high praise.
Peterson.
I don't know about that because I mean we're all biased here, but I think Leonard Fournette is a rare cat.
Well, when you were Leonard Fournette, and I'm sorry, when you got Blake Bortles as your quarterback, I'm sorry.
Here we go. We're going to get Pete Prisco on this week to talk about Blake Bortles because
He still throws the football like a dodgeball. I'm
played
sorry.
very
Lines
hard.
up and throws it like
AFC Championship game.
So what? He still throws it like
God,
who's the
AFC
guy?
Championship.
Who's the guy in the dodgeball? The Ben Stiller character.
I don't know.
Come on, it's a crazy name.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
Oh.
that's unfortunate. I thought I had it on the tip of my tongue. No, Bobby.
No,
Boucher.
Bob Boucher, that's a water boy.
That's Jeff's guy. No, Jeff's the guy with the guy who wears the overalls with the pierced nipples and you can't understand anything he's saying. That's Jeff.
Where'd that come from? What's that?
That's in Waterboy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And no one understands what he's saying. That's what it is.
You can't understand me right now because my voice is
White
too
Goodman.
annoying.
That's it, White Goodman. Man, if Dave was in, Dave ducked out for a second. White Goodman.
Yes,
Yes.
White Goodman.
That's Blake Bortles. White Goodman. That guy.
AFC Championship game.
AFC Championship game.
So along
one
these
quarter away from the Super Bowl.
along these same lines, ESPN has also put
They got
together
crushed.
its
No, they didn't get crushed.
most likely Super Bowl matchups. And while the Saints aren't in the top 5 of teams with a high enough percentage with the best chance to win the Super Bowl, one of their most likely Super Bowl matchups at 4%, Saints against the Patriots.
The Patriots are going down this year. They're going down. Mark my word. Was it May 30th, 2018?
You better bet a
Proclamation.
limb. Bet a limb.
They
We're
are
going to shave
going
your
down.
eyebrows.
They are
if
not going to be in the Super Bowl. They've lost way too much. Their offensive line has been decimated. I think that thing's falling apart up there.
I think
for finally.
there's a lack of trust, and if you can, if I'm sorry, if Tom Brady's not at OTAs, it is a story. You don't just bolt out. That's
Well, there's an undercurrent there. I think.
There's
Look,
some-
they're
some-
professionals, and I think they will get along just fine. But there's something clearly wrong between their relationship.
remember last year, his fitness guru
Yes.
Alex Guerrero
Yes.
got thrown off the plane and out
Mm-hmm.
of the facility. This, that, the other, and you've seen some.
You saw the
things.
comments Cassius Marsh made
No, I didn't.
about his time there.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
I
Yeah,
did not read it,
yeah.
but I saw maybe the headline about it.
It's not fun. It's not. It made him question whether or not he wanted to play football still, and it's not for everybody. Oh yeah, I mean, no, that was about as damning as a comment about the Patriot way as you can get.
I mean, the Patriot way obviously has resulted in 5 Super Bowls, but how would the narrative be different if the Seahawks hadn't elected to pass on the 1 yard line and punch that ball
true.
in, and
True.
the Falcons wouldn't have squandered a 25-point lead.
Yeah.
Both those games were easily winnable, and probably you could make a case should have been won by the opponent. And then the Patriots would have gone, what a decade without a title?
Well, there's a lot of ifs. If
I
Adam
know, but
Vinatieri
I mean-
missed a field goal to even start the run.
But I mean, come on,
The
man.
tuck
They're on the
roll,
1 yard line.
Ifs.
Second down on
Yeah.
the 1 yard line.
Oh, I get that.
The Seahawks have basically imploded since then. A lot of players saying that play call is what caused them to lose trust in Pete Carroll.
I
Now,
wouldn't
maybe
I
that's-
wouldn't
yeah,
doubt it.
I don't think anybody would
wouldn't
disagree
doubt
with that.
it. Marshawn Lattimore has no problem saying it on Twitter as much as humanly possible. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. Let's head up to Baton Rouge next. Talk LSU baseball with Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
They also rated the Saints offense is number 1 and the defense is 32 in their unit rankings.
What?
Yes. They have a Saints offense rated as number 1 in their unit rankings. As number 1, the defense is 32.
They have them as the worst defense in the league.
The worst defense in the league.
Who? The
That's
Saints?
what?
Yeah, I'm
Saints?
telling you. Yes.
What the hell does that even mean? Like, Cam Jordan's one of the best players in the league. Marshawn Lattimore, too. Like, them alone should help the defense.
Would they have 3 Pro Bowls? 2?
2 Pro Bowlers. And what were they? Middle of the pack last year, they ended up?
Vince will confirm, by the way, the Streif stuff.
Oh, well. I mean, he told Todd, so I mean, of course I know that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I just want to make sure that I don't know.
See what? I'm gonna show you this, Larry.
What is this?
This is their unit rankings. Offensive rank, defensive rank.
No, who's doing the ranking?
ESPN is.
But I
Their
mean,
FBI.
Like who is doing it? I mean, they got 1 million people.
Yeah, they got 1 million people.
Is it
Yeah.
reporters? Or?
No. That's their statistical team. That's just. I mean, that's what they're projecting at least for the Saints to end up being, which is strange because it's like, how do you have the number 1 defense, number 1 offense, and then the worst defense?
That's the way it's been for years.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they got better at cornerback. They got a little better at linebacker. Their defensive front is still a question.
One thing that gives me a little pause on their defense from last year is they didn't play a lot of great quarterbacks last year.
They will this year.
Yeah, they will this year. They got kind of lucky. Remember, like,
They didn't
Rodgers
play
got hurt.
Rodgers.
Tannehill, not that he's great, but he was hurt. They ended up like
Playing like Trubisky, and
right.
they beat Stafford. That's about it. Okay, cool.
Yes, I do. $100. The Jaguars were winning 17-10 going into the 4th quarter. Just want to point that out. Hater. Blake Hater.
I wonder if Jacques Doucet is still hanging out in the rally fog up in Hoover, Alabama. Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Are you already on your 45-hour drive that anticipates 7 hours of traffic delays? I found that quite amusing, Jacques.
I just don't believe it. I just do not believe it.
I mean, Jacques, you could. I think I'm convinced sometimes that you actually are Jim Hawthorne.
Fair.
Like, you are him. Like, and you just wear a mask.
I've already given
him.
my Jacques Doucet like voice impression power ranking, and that's always going to be. That was going to be number one. Skip's going to be number two, and then Paul Maneri is always going to be number three.
Look, they're all up there. But Jacques, look, crazy. Jacques, I didn't even ask you for the impressions, but you delivered, of course. What is it the kids say? At 100?
Yeah,
at 100?
he's 100 right now.
He's at 100, I would say right here. Jacques Doucet, WAFB-TV, joining us right here on the show. Look, it's amazing how quickly the narrative has changed with LSU baseball. You walk into that SEC tournament, and LSU loses that first game, and we might be talking to you about hellfire and brimstone, them missing the tournament. Now, all of a sudden, LSU baseball, Paul Maneri, their pitching staff, they've got to be feeling pretty good about themselves, right?
Jacques, we were talking on the program yesterday. It's such a long trip out to Corvallis. What do you expect the LSU fan support to be out there? Have you talked to people? Are people planning to make the trip? I'm kind of curious to know just how hostile the crowd's going to be against LSU.
Jacques, what do you feel like the pitching rotation is going to be? You've got to try to get game one. You can't sleep on San Diego State, so I'm assuming they're gearing up to. They've got to put their best arms out there right away and gear up because they're not the favorite in this bracket. I mean, Oregon State is Oregon State. We all know that.
Jacques, do you think the performance at the SEC tournament has kind of alleviated some of the concerns with the season? I mean, I know, look, coming into the year, expectations were somewhat mild by LSU standards, but I think people were pretty disappointed. I mean, this is a team that might have almost run the risk of missing the tournament altogether. They make this great run in the SEC tournament. Do you think that's satisfied LSU fans? I know they could be a tough cookie sometimes.
Jacques Duce, WAFB TV up in Baton Rouge, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. What about LSU having to make the trip out to Corvallis? There's always some grumbling. Why do you have to send them all the way out there? And then you add on top of that, Northwestern State makes the tournament, Natchitoches, and you send both Louisiana schools out there. What do you make of having to go all the way out there? And my sentiment is, look, LSU put themselves at the mercy of not having as good of a season, so you just got to take what you got. And also, on top of that, the winner of the Oregon State bracket, say LSU wins, they'd have to go to Minnesota. It seems a very random and something LSU is not totally accustomed to.
Yeah, Jacques, that was actually going to be what I was going to lead into. Although, fortunately for you, I guess there won't be any Oklahoma City NCAA baseball holdover this year. So thanks for that. But it seems like the RPI, it seems like what the NCAA has done with the RPI and how they've gone into formulating how teams are now either flyers because of how their season has gone, like the major schools are now flyers, or teams like Stetson, are now getting run as national seeds. It seems like what the NCAA has done is even though the SEC is still arguably, the SEC West as a whole, one of the strongest conferences in college baseball, they're looking across the board at the rest of the teams and the rest of these mid-majors too as teams who are just as good, if not as good, as some of the Power 5 schools in some of the bigger conferences like the SEC and ACC. And though while LSU will be a flyer this year, it may not always be the case, but it does show the parity of college baseball extending across the country.
Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV up in Baton Rouge. Hey, Jacques, appreciate you jumping on, and I appreciate you getting John Brady on. I appreciate you getting Jim Hawthorne on, and I appreciate you getting Paul Maneri on. I mean, you deliver the guests when you come on. We'll give the injury report week 1.
That's not for you.
No, that's Drew Brees to me about his contract. That's not for you. And no, next question, yeah, that's for me from Sean Payton. All right, Jock, appreciate it, buddy. All right, let's take our final break on the show. And all you two guys have been doing is chomping down on Chex Mix.
I know, but
whatever
we're being really healthy.
mix.
This is Trail Mix.
Trail Mix,
Trail Mix,
Chex
dude.
Mix. I guess it's not Chex Mix.
It's not Chex Mix, even though that's also healthy.
It's carbs, gluten-free. Oh,
Gluten-free.
very important.
Yes.
Gluten-free, just like woodchuck cider. Gluten-free.
It's
Jeff, you
nice
can't
and
even
crisp.
speak. You got a mouthful of
You
food.
would know that.
That's
Mr. Cider McGee.
That was
Cider McGee.
That was olden times. Now
As long as you're not IPA guy, I can't stand IPA guy.
You better get out of the studio
Yeah.
because 2/3 of this room
Gross.
are heavily IPA. Man.
Gross. Do you like eating wheat?
My wife wishes I was an IPA.
I
man,
believe it.
As Jeff.
IPA is the way to go.
Yeah, Jeff made us experience yesterday. I had to open up the door and wave it around. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Nice.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
We've lowered
My wife hates that I drink IPAs just because of how bad my farts stink. They are awful.
Oh my
Rotten.
God.
Oh,
That's what my friend told me. I'm just like, oh my
dude,
God.
they make it's rotten. Joni even knows. She's like, oh man, you drinking IPAs?
I'll be sure to buy some June 9th.
Gross.
Oh well, she knows. It's like if I'm drinking beer, that's all I'm drinking.
Yeah.
If it's available, that's what I'm drinking.
If it's available.
Like,
Holy Roller, please.
Damn right, Holy Roller. When we go to NOLA Brewery, they better make a Dunc and Holder IPA.
Yeah.
So I ran it up the flagpole and got the charity auction thing, just to make sure they were okay with it.
Huh.
They were like,
Sure.
loved it. Yeah.
When are we going to do that?
June 14th is the Tulane Greenbackers Club.
June 14th.
I think it's like
Thursday.
6 o'clock or something like that.
That's all right.
Yeah, those guys are.
Well, I'll be done. I'll be done work. That's the last day of minicamp. I'll be done.
Mine just comes straight from out there. They usually meet out like right off Causeway.
Okay.
There's like a sports bar out there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, smooth voice. Earthfest. Who gives a shit?
Wow, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm looking at my story on the Sports Foundation stuff and the bid. It'll be 3,000 words.
Oh my God. Oh my God,
It's crazy.
that's a novel.
We got an intro. We got approach to the Super Bowl bid. How things change. Private versus public funding. Juggling everything. Something and something else. I don't know. All right.
It's good stuff.
Final segment on a Wednesday. Eric Asher following us, noon to 2. Chris Gordy, 2 to 4. Corey Johnson, 4 to 6. You missed any of our show, sports1280.com. Find all the podcasts and our YouTube page for NOLA.com. You can check all of that out. And, guys, you look at LSU baseball, and it's basically like you're back where you're supposed to be at this time of the say the sporting season, and I'm curious to see how much of a run they can go on up there. I don't think that Corvallis will be too big for them. I think they could go up there, and if they look, I think it's critical they win game one.
Yeah.
If they can't win game one, I would basically say, all right, you can watch the games and just assume they might win one or two, and then that'll be the end. But game one is critical for LSU. I don't think they can, as Jacques was just saying, I don't think their pitching staff could sustain if they have to go deep again, just like they just did. And then offensively, the last two games, it's not like they were lighting the house on fire, even though they won one of those games.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's actually the basis for Brody Miller, who we'll have on the show on Friday, correct?
Correct.
Highly likely, yes.
That's one of the main points of the story that he put out yesterday was, obviously after this run that they made in Hoover, will their pitching staff, who seemed to come to life during that run of 6 games in 6 days, will they be able to keep that type of action up in the NCAA tournament that could propel them on a run? Paul Maneri has not named a starter. He says he's not naming a game one starter until tomorrow. So, I mean, we're talking about right now where Paul Maneri has to figure out how he's going to get his guys rest, how he's going to get his guys regular bullpen and throwing sessions this week before they leave, which will likely again be today. So that's where I think the concern is that can this team find magic and lightning in a bottle again and try to overcome the fact that they are on the road and they will be going up against a highly ranked Oregon State team this weekend? Because you're right, they've got to win game one, but it's still going to be a very tough regional. Because I mean, at that point, you're still talking about you're going up against the home side. You're going to have the home crowd, and you're not. And I mean, it'll be. And another thing that we talked about, it'll be interesting to see how many LSU fans travel for the series.
Yeah, and Jeff, you brought up the question with Jacques about basically pacifying LSU fan, and I'm telling LSU fan right now, you better be pacified. Give me a break. This team wasn't supposed to be as good, and they were on the borderline edge of possibly missing the NCAA tournament. They made a run. They're a 2 seed. They're playing a national powered Oregon State in a venue that they've never played in. I think it's interesting, like Jacques said, and this should pacify them. I don't want to hear this, that, the other, because I think it's pretty remarkable that Paul Maneri was able to push the right buttons at the right time, and they made a run, and they positioned themselves. You could argue going to Oregon State is not exactly optimal, but it's better than being a 3 seed somewhere else.
Right.
And look, you're playing a better team, this, that, the other. They positioned themselves the best they could, and this is what you got.
Something about the SEC tournament brings out the best in LSU.
Well, that was also brought up a lot this week. It's called the SEC tournament. Is basically goes by its pseudonym, the LSU Invitational.
Right. I mean, they've dominated there. Paul Maneri always has his team ready. They always have a great crowd there that follows them over. And I don't know if that'll be the case out in Corvallis. But look, LSU's played in SEC. I mean, there's some hostile road environments. They're not going to be intimidated by playing in a hostile environment. But the fact of the matter is, Oregon State is very good. Their record the last 4 years just added up 93, 18, and 1 at home. They were 22 and 5 there this year. They were 31 and 1 there last year.
Oh.
So this is a team that's used to winning. Their fans are into it, and it comes down to talent. You know, they may just have more talent than LSU, but LSU I don't think is going to be unnerved by the environment by any means, and they should be rooting for Northwestern State. I mean, Northwestern State could shock the world and upset Oregon State. You just never know, man. That's how these things happen in college baseball. And Northwestern State is kind of a Cinderella story this year. They were not expected to be that good. I think they were picked 11th in the Southland or something like that. Got hot mid-season. So it's a great story for them, making this first NCAA tournament in a long time.
No, this is their first. Well, their first. They won their first Southland tournament title. Like, this was the first one ever.
Ever, right. And so they're in a no-lose situation. I mean, no one expects anything from Northwestern State. I kind of feel like LSU, for the first time in a while, is kind of in that mode because everyone's expecting Oregon State to advance here. They're the number 3 national seed. Here you got LSU, a traditional power that's used to playing at home. Suddenly, they're going to be the underdog. And I think that's a really unique role for them to be in, and I think they're going to be very dangerous in that role.
I would agree. And I don't think it's too daunting, but Jeff, their road record has been abysmal for basically, well, for the entire regular season, and then they go to a neutral site and play at Hoover, and you've got far more fans in your favor at Hoover than you would on a road trip. So that's certainly a concern. But I'm with you that what do they have to lose? They're not the favorite. They're going in playing well, and yet I think they're probably going to relish something different, to be honest with you. I think it's for 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old young adults doing something different out of the ordinary, going to a Corvallis against an Oregon State.
A place you probably would have never gone otherwise.
Exactly. I think it's probably something they're going to enjoy, and maybe that keeps them loose. And that's as long as they play loose. And look, if they go 2-1 out, they go 2-1 out. I don't expect them to go 2-1 out. I would be surprised if that would have happened. But if they don't win it, all right, they maximize probably what they had this year, and then you move on and you're expecting bigger things next year because this team is relatively young, right?
Yeah, absolutely relatively young. Relatively young, with a lot to look forward to going and projecting out. And that's the thing that, I was going to your point, Larry, in terms of like LSU fans unfortunately being, maybe less enthused. I think, like Jacques said, I think it's one thing to host every year. You host every year, you get used to it, and I think it becomes one of those things where it just becomes a part of life, but it doesn't really necessarily change your outlook. To have it change up and be able to go to a place like a Corvallis, like a Eugene, like the Twin Cities, being able to do some of that is a nice breakaway from the norm. I understand you want to be a high seed, but it is what it is. And again, to your point, there are a lot of teams around the country right now that finish with winning records. And this goes for Tulane, it goes for UNO as well. There are a lot of teams out here right now that had super winning records, that had decent RPIs, that are not in this tournament because they didn't win their regular season, or they may have won the regular season and didn't win the tournament.
Like Kentucky or something
exactly.
like that.
Oh, yeah, that's always good. Let's mention Kentucky's story.
Oh, Jeff, I did that just for you.
They're getting left out, and they would love to be in the tournament too, and they're not. And they have just as much right to be griping because they would love to have this opportunity that teams like LSU get seemingly every year.
You know what? Kentucky could watch Louisville on TV this
Wow. Oh, man. Jeff, just for you. Put it up on a tee. Want to thank Jacques Doucet. Want to thank Sean Mazam. Want to thank Amos Morale. Missed any of the show? Sports1280.com, NOLA.com's YouTube page. Eric Asher coming up next. I'll be at Saints OTA tomorrow. But, of course, NBA Finals Game 1. I'm sure we'll be talking about this on the show. And come on back for a Thursday edition here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. To PB.
Yes. Thank you, Dave.
All right. Now I get to go write the